Not so long ago, major publishers gave us new masterpieces every year, but at some point, something happened. Consider The Witcher 3. It was created over 3.5 years ago by 250 developers and was 35 times larger than the previous installment. However, Cyberpunk 2077 involved 600 people and 8 years of development, and its launch was a disaster. And similar issues are occurring with almost every major studio. Suddenly, budgets and development time increased dramatically. Games took long to create, but they were definitely not better than those released 10 years ago. Strange, isn't it? So today, I'll give you the answer. Why does it take so long to make games now? Why doesn't more time mean better? And most importantly, will we get a Black Pope before GTA 6? Sometimes I think maybe it's just nostalgia. Maybe we're just idealizing the past as we always do. But if you honestly look at the release lists, it seems like things were really better back then. Every year in the 2000s, studios showed off their best ideas. The game felt fresh, original, revolutionary. We got the best shooters, the best open world games, and the best storylines. It was a golden age when the best franchises were born. If I wasn't jumping into haystacks in Assassin's Creed, I was crawling through the grass in Call of Duty, tearing up the city in GTA 4 at 24 FPS, or saving Gotham again in the best superhero game, even by today's standards. But of course, the best game I've ever played was Raid Shadow Legends. Ah yes, you've definitely heard of it. But here's what you definitely did not know. Only now Raid Shadow Legends is giving away one of the strongest heroes in the game, and that is the legendary Monkey King, Sun Wukong. Just enter the promo code Monkey King, which is only valid for the first 72 hours after registration. If I had gotten Monkey King when I first started, it would have been much easier. He steals all the buffs from new enemies, blocks new ones, and on top of all of that, he has a powerful passive that will revive him fully. He's just a machine. And he looks cool. I would even say sexy. And yes, I've actually spent a lot of time playing Raid because I genuinely enjoy it. It has everything a hardcore RPG should have. A campaign with a dark lore, bosses that don't forgive mistakes, a PvP arena, and large-scale clan battles. It feels like Dark Souls, Total War, and Genshin Impact have all merged into one big game, and it's in your pocket. Follow my link in the description or scan the QR code on the screen. Enter the promo code Monkey King and you'll get Sun Wukong and a bunch of bonuses. Epic Hero Drake right away and Epic Hero Tagoar after level 15, as well as resources for a powerful start. Also, join my clan Radical Gang. And don't forget, all of these bonuses are only available with my link in the description down below or the QR code if you'd like. Don't hesitate and play Raid Shadow Legends with me. Now, let's get back to the video. It's no surprise that I never had any money as a teenager. Every penny I earned went into new games, Xbox Live Gold, or prostitutes. In GTA, and in real life too. Bethesda, Ubisoft, and many other studios were at the top back then. But as soon as these studios had a lot of extra time and money, they seemed to stop being afraid of making mistakes. But it's not that simple. Between 2003 and 2013, Rockstar Games released 26 games. Between 2013 and 2023, however, they released only 2. Other big studios may not have cut back on releases as radically, but the games they release today often feel like the same experience with a new wrapper. The best innovations now come from either indie developers or small mid-tier studios. I'm a big fan of indie games, but the reality is that small studios are always limited by resources. They can't create something on the scale of Ghost of Yoti, at least not yet. To make something huge, you need huge amounts of money. And it's understandable that huge sums are only invested in something that will bring in a good profit. But in this situation, a logical question arises. Isn't it more profitable for a big publisher to make more big AAA games per year in order to make more? For example, Take-Two, which obviously has a lot of money, could open a few more studios to develop another big open world game that could fill the gap while GTA and the new Mafia are in development. And the problem is definitely not that big publishers don't have the resources to do so. I think the thing is that game companies themselves are no longer interested in releasing games as often as they used to. But why? Some might say that over the past decade, most developers have shifted their focus to longer-term online projects. Projects that you can work on for 10 to 15 years, earn billions from, and not think about any responsibility to an audience that is fed up waiting for Half-Life 3. Yes, Valve was the first to decide to abandon its big AAA past and switch to games like Dota 2. And you know, I worry every single day about the possible death of Dota 2, but not because I liked the game. It's because I know that as soon as it's gone, Dota players will move on to something else. Valve keeps thousands of degenerates under control. It's like a maximum security prison or a mental hospital. It's a huge job, and we have to support them in that. But seriously, modern AAA games, unless they're conveyor belts from Activision or Ubisoft, come out in 5, 7, what the fuck? Come out in 5, 7, 10. That's not 10, bitch. Come out in 5, 7, 10, or even more years. But in reality, in most cases, they are not developed during most of that time. When a big studio releases a game, the first thing that happens is bug fixes. Then the developers start working on DLC, and only after that does work begin on a sequel or the creation of the next game. So when GTA 6 is finally released, it's pretty unlikely that they will start developing the 7th installment right away, or even in the next 2 to 3 years. Very few developers start working on a sequel to a game that has just been released. In the case of Bethesda, key executives move on to other projects and pay very little attention to sequels. There may be a small team, but in reality, no one is working on this project for a long time. That's why we get 100 re-releases of Skyrim, a wonderful remastered Oblivion, but we're still waiting for at least some information about Test 6, the teaser for which came out 7 years ago. The studios can be a little misleading about this because they say things like, "We started work on the Elder Scrolls 6, and even release a trailer, when in reality, the team is less than 10 people. This way, they create the impression that it's a parallel development, that the team is actually working on this game, when in fact, few people are holding a few meetings and doing very little. But there are actually reasons why a game might be announced, even if it's in the very early stages of development or hasn't even started yet. There might be reasons why it's important for studios to keep the game in the public eye. Maybe they just want people to remember that they still have a few important games in the pipeline. Perhaps the developers want to announce the game because they are afraid that the publisher will cancel it otherwise. In any case, there are actual reasons why a game that's not even in development may be announced very early on. This is not usually the best strategy in terms of attracting attention and creating a hype around the game itself. When there's a 10-year gap between game releases, there's a high probability that at least the first few years of those 10 years were not spent on working on the game. And then another few years, maybe even more, are spent mainly on developing the concept and vision with no actual work on the actual game. But that's not all. The actual development time, which is the actual total working time during which a large team is working, has increased significantly since the days when we used to get a dozen big projects in a year. And that brings us to an interesting point. Although there are significantly fewer games, the games themselves have become much bigger. I would say that they have become gigantic compared to what games looked like 10 to 15 years ago. And obviously, the bigger the map, the more time it takes to develop. Anyways, games with large maps are so attractive to publishers because these are usually the projects that interest the modern audience the most. Players believe that games that can be played for an extremely long time are, at the very least, profitable. The average gamer thinks, why should I spend $70 on a good story-driven game that I'll finish in 8 hours when I can buy a game with a huge world and play that crap for 80 hours? At the same time, publishers strive to create super hits such as GTA, Skyrim, or Witcher. They are attracted to games that can sell tens of millions of copies. Therefore, more and more games are striving to achieve the status of an eternal game that can be played for an incredibly long time. As a result, you see fewer dense, story-driven games that were popular 10 to 15 years ago, and more games designed for long playthroughs, whether they're open-world games or live services. This comes at a price though. These games take longer to make. They aren't necessarily more complex to create, but you definitely need a lot more time to create a ton of content that will keep the player engaged for as long as possible. As the industry strives for greater experiences, smaller games, which used to be created much faster, have been pushed out and become less common. As a result, the average playtime has increased even though we have significantly less choice in what we play. It's not just sheer size that's to blame for games taking so long to make these games. We are also in a period where many games are trying to achieve hyper-realistic graphics or strive to include as many details as possible, even those that are not really necessary. These things, while not contributing to the size of the game or helping to create a game that will last forever, still take a lot of time to develop. When studios get caught up in how the hair on a character's back moves, it takes time. Time that they wouldn't have spent before. Every single year, games become more technically complex, which definitely affects development. As new systems, new elements, and all kinds of new technologies necessary for modern games are added, game studios need to increase the number of specializations, which inevitably increases the size of teams. With an increase in team size, they gain more opportunities, but also make more channels of communication. These communication channels increase proportionally to the size of the development team. So, as the team grows, they become more cumbersome, slower, and less flexible. 15 or 20 years ago, all combat systems could be developed by a single developer, and animation by a separate team of animators. What's more, all of this was put together without much consideration for how the elements interacted with each other. Today, animation, game balance, hit reactions, visual effects, and a whole lot of other things are closely intertwined. Which means that for a game to work and look right, you need many different teams to communicate with each other. Studios with 500 to 700 people can create real chaos during development, especially when we're talking about big projects that take years to create. Finally, one of my reasons why AAA games sometimes take so long to develop is that they can afford to. Developers look at the market and their own ambitions and decide that it is better to create a game that will have a powerful cultural impact than to simply release it on time. This is exactly how Rockstar operates with the GTA series. Instead of releasing a new installment every few years, they are willing to wait decades to make each release an event. In fact, long breaks between installments of successful franchises can enhance the impact of the next game, as long as the IP itself is not forgotten. In this sense, delays can be strategically advantageous. As a result, AAA games are increasingly being released at longer intervals. This is one of the main reasons why we are seeing AA projects, or ambitious indie games, literally come out of nowhere and shake up the industry. If a game like Claire Obscure Expedition 33 is willing to take risks and isn't afraid to be different, it can turn the market upside down. And it can do so with a smaller and faster team. And that's good for the industry. It gives small studios a chance to enter the big leagues and keeps AAA fresh. Otherwise, the industry risks becoming a stagnant, predictable machine that fears change. It is thanks to flexible, risk-taking outsiders that innovation and development are preserved. Now, does this make AAA games faster to develop? Of course not. If the unexpected success of a smaller game disrupts player expectations, the studio may go back to reworking it, and that will delay the release even more. I hope it's a little more clear why big games take so long to make. Some of the reasons are fairly understandable. Some can be justified by management, and some have simply become part of tradition and fear. The fear of disappointing players. And don't forget to write in the comments a game you're willing to wait a very long time for. Like my mustache? Zoom in on my mustache real quick. I gotta shave that shit. Later, boys. Good luck. And don't forget to grab your crazy bonuses in Raid Shadow Legends using my QR code or the link below the video.